And you see what Insomniac did. I'm gonna be honest. If it wasn't for Insomniac, bro, we'd be hurting right now.
If it wasn't for Insomniac, where would PlayStation be, man? You hear that? Puerto just admitted that PlayStation ain't got no games, man. I mean, this is ridiculous, bro. You people need to grow up. What is wrong with you, man? The concept of exclusivity never really existed ever since the NES, man. Because as much as I enjoyed the NES and Super Nintendo, let's be honest, people, the majority of the games that we enjoyed was third-party. Castlevania, Contra. They just happened to be exclusive on those platforms at that time. You see, a lot of it had to do with Nintendo, with the illegal contracts and what they try to do with Sega. So we get that. But at the end of the day, man, for people to sit there and say, oh, people buy platforms for exclusivity. No, they have always bought them for third party. No different than the PlayStation 1. Final Fantasy 7, all these games were actually originally being developed for the N64, but since Nintendo used cartridges, Square's like, no, obviously this game's way too ambitious for that. We're not going to try to compress our game to fit it on a cartridge, so we're going to make it for the PlayStation 1. That's why these games was exclusive at the time. Not because Square didn't want to put it on the N64. It had more to do with the fact that back then, a lot of the game consoles had its own gaming architecture. So when you made a game for a specific platform, to port it to another one, like for example, the Sega Saturn with its cell processors and it using quads, with the PlayStation 1 using tris. So it made things a little difficult to port games. I mean, obviously some companies still did so anyways, but it still took time and development to bring those games to other platforms. But now you fast forward it to 2025, where practically the Xbox Series X and the PS5 are the same. It's easy to port games to, I guess you can quote unquote say, the competitor. It's not really that difficult.
Yeah, we'd be hurting right now.
We would be hurting right now.
Good. They did good overall. They gave us games. So yeah.
Wow.
Naughty Dog.
So why you sit there and act and try to argue with me as if I don't understand what's going on, man? Because it's so funny. You guys continue to call me an Xbox fanboy, but yet, how many times I gotta show you my PS5 controller in every single one of my videos, man? It's like you guys know that exclusivity has always been this false narrative that you guys wanted to push out. Because if exclusives was so important, that explain as to why people didn't pick up the Wii U. The Wii U had a ton of exclusives at the time. So it goes to show you. Matter of fact, some of the same great games that are on the Switch that are selling 80 million all started development on the Wii U, and people still chose not to buy the platform. So when people sit there and say, oh, exclusivity is what push consoles, matter of fact, I would go as far to say it's third party. Look at the PS1. It did better than the Saturn and the N64 because of third party. PS2, third party. PS3, marginally the same third party with the Xbox 360, but the 360 did better initially because they had better ports and they had better third party games. See, that's why you guys like the 360 so much. It has more to do with the fact that Microsoft shifted the dynamic between what PlayStation had at the time with third party and said, no, we're going to get a little piece of that action on top of throwing out Gears of War and some exclusives at the time, which people still cherish. And there you go. That's why the 360 was beloved. It had nothing to do with the fact that it was Gears of War and Halo. I mean, people were going to probably get these games anyway, but it had a lot to do with third party, and you people know it.
Got three different teams. They got Team A, Team B, and I guess you'll say the multiplayer team. But with The Last of Us Part 2, for some reason, well, I guess we know why. The game is so massive. But they put every...
It has nothing to do with the game being massive. It has more to do with the fact that with today's gaming demographic, they feel that these games won't be able to succeed with all these free-to-plays. Like, how do you guys not see this, bro? You can look at your PS5 and look at the top 10 games being played on your console. Now, no matter how good Last of Us may be or how good Factions could have came out, it wouldn't matter because it wouldn't surpass games like Call of Duty. And I think this is something that you guys struggle to understand.
Body on. They said it took over like 2,000 people to make The Last of Us Part 2, like with the contractors and whatnot. But I'm fully behind what you're saying right now. And I also had this sentiment. Why instead of making these offbeat ass, we ain't never heard of games as a service that's never coming out, why not take these newly found teams and talent and integrate them into these other studios? Like
what? A lot of them are already working on projects, Jackmove. Now, I get that you play your games and you enjoy your PlayStation, but a lot of these companies are already working on their own games. The problem is Sony takes 4, 5, 6, 7, or even 8 years to make a game, which is probably the end of a console's generation.
Understand why didn't they have Naughty Dog? I guess just make the frame of the overall structure of.
Where have you been, Jackmove? You know that game, Last of Us Part 2, almost created a mutiny at the company to the point where there was even videos talking about how Naughty Dog is telling these dudes, you got to get this game working. Half of those people weren't sleeping. So that game completely stressed them out to the point where Naughty Dog's like, man, we need to take a break, Sony. As we're like, but you got to do something. PS5 ain't got nothing out there. I mean, we'll remaster the old games we had, but as of right now, we just really don't feel like working because Sony burnt that studio out. That's what happened.
Factions too. And you could put that off to another developer, bro. Like, Sony got so many fucking employees, bro. Like, why are you not putting these people in places where these devs clearly need some assistance? These games is getting bigger and bigger by the day. I don't know, bro. I'm really confused, Puerto, right?
What is there to be confused about? A lot of the reason as to why these games don't exist because there's not a market for them. People are not going to buy it. And on top of that, Sony's not going to take potential losses, just because they want to sit there and fuel your fanboy agendas.
I can't fathom what they doing, brother. And they, on top of that, like...
It's pretty easy to understand.
Said, why aren't you doing what got you here? That's really my main...
Which is what, Jackmove Johnny? You tell me what Sony has been doing, right? That they have never always been doing as to why Sony's struggling right now. Let's hear it.
Complaint with PlayStation this generation, bro. They got here from offering a variety of games.
Okay, you hear this?
First, second,
Sony offering a variety of games. Go ahead. You said first, second, and third party.
Third party. And all them games was truly exclusive. Even the second and third party games, you wasn't getting Persona nowhere else. The main line.
That's actually incorrect because Persona, what are you talking about? Persona, they were making games for Nintendo. They might have not made any of the mainline series. I mean, Shin Megami Tensei, which is a part of the Persona franchise, was still being made on Nintendo. What are you talking about? A lot of the reasons as to why those games were exclusive, because at the time, different consoles had different gaming architecture. You know what I'm saying? If you wanted to make a game for this console, it was going to be a lot different to develop for than it would be, let's say, for an N64. That's the reason as to why those games was exclusive. It had nothing to do, because if you think about it, Final Fantasy VII was originally planned to be a Nintendo 64 exclusive. Matter of fact, Dead or Alive, even Tekken was originally planned to be Sega Saturn exclusives. But we already know why that ain't the case, because the Saturn just didn't catch on well with a lot of people, so they figured, okay, we can't put it there, and and then obviously Namco's now going to want to compress their game to get it to fit on the cartridge, and N64 wasn't really known for fighting games anyway, so they just went with the PlayStation 1 by default, I guess you could say. But then Sony also, gave in and said, hey, man, if you put them on here, we'll publish your games for free. You just got to keep them here. And so third parties like, okay, they gravitated towards it. They're like, oh, you're not charging us to publish games here as long as we keep them here and don't want to do anything else with the competitor. So that's why those games stayed. Because as soon as the 360, and when they found out, like, hold on, we can make games for other people and still make money, they said, we don't need you, PlayStation.
Persona games like Devil May Cry 1, you wouldn't get.
So a third-party game, a game that Sony don't own. Devil May Cry 1, really, Jackmove?
Nowhere but PlayStation. Like, the variety was there.
What do you mean variety? Those games still exist. The only difference is that they exist on other platforms. You guys are just mad because Sony is not the real market leader like y'all want to claim. Because like you just said, back then on PS2, Devil May Cry was exclusive. Devil May Cry is made by Capcom, you big dummy. Onimusha, we get it. You guys have just exposed yourself as to why PlayStation was never a good console. I'm sorry, Sega has been right. Sega, when they came out with the Sega Saturn, and they're like, PlayStation, Sony, they don't know how to make games, and you still don't know how to make games. When y'all made games for the Sega CD, which was Cliffhanger and all that other garbage y'all made, they were trash. Sega was the one that knew how to make games. But since PlayStation played it smart by saying, let's make a basic console, make it easy for developers to make games for it, that's what flocked all the third party to it. And then the sales that it came from it, they're like, okay, we're just going to start making games for that. That had nothing to do with the fact, we got to make it exclusive for PS1 because it's better. It had nothing to do with that, bro. That's what you fanboys thought. Because like I've said before, the PS1 and 2, you take the third party away from it. You really don't have no really first party Sony games, man. It's the same stuff now. God of War, Gran Turismo, it's the same. I mean, I can list Ratchet and Clank. It's the same stuff now. If you really think about what I'm saying, you'll be like, yo, Gamester, that's a good point. If you take the third party away from the PlayStation 2, it's the same crap. Gran Turismo, Ratchet and Clank, God of War. You know what kept people playing? The third party.
The games was there, single player, whatever, co-op. Bro, it's just like they hopping off the porch with all this new shit, and it's like...
I will say this. So some things is in my opinion, and that's a damage control. I think
it was so funny about PlayStation fans. They never want to list games like Blasto, Extermination, 1, Jumping Flash. The games that Sony made, Ape Escape. They always want to talk about third-party games on the PS1 and 2. They never bring up the fact. I'm telling you, if you tell a PlayStation fan to make the top 10 list of games, I can guarantee you that the majority of that list will be third-party. Oh, Shadow of Rome, and... I'm telling you, I know because I prefer those games too. Clock Tower 3, I get it. Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3. But ain't none of y'all mentioning Extermination. Ain't none of y'all mentioning none of the other great games. Not even the Jet Li Rise of Honor game that y'all made. None of y'all mentioning those games, bro. Y'all know what I'm saying is official. Because the PS1 and 2 thrive mostly on third party. So when the 360 came out and completely changed that narrative, that's when Sony was in trouble. I don't know your gaming history, man.
People saying that the industry's changing, and I think like the industry already changed, and I think it did back in the 360 PS3. That's when things changed, and I don't think people noticed.
Well, at least he's not as dumb as I thought he was.
Because we didn't have podcasters like that. We were in the forums. YouTube was in its infancy, right? And what I mean by that, people didn't notice because before 360 PS3 generation, and I think we can all remember, the industry backed the winner. That's why
it's not. It's not about the winner. That has nothing to do with that. It has more to do with the fact that back then, like I've said before previously, when companies made a game, obviously Sony had a hand in that with the publishing rights, and I get all that. But I'm saying the reason as to why majority of those people published games on Sony over its competitor, because at one time they had the higher hardware sales, which obviously means more money for them to make. Why would they choose to make a game for N64 with a lower install base when the PS1 has a higher install base, and on top of them wanting to make the game, and then Sony making it easier, say, hey, we'll give you free publishing and advertisement? Of course they're going to go there automatically, even if Sony don't provide none of their own games. It's a pretty simple concept to understand. Why would I want to make a game for the Sega Saturn when only 11 million people bought it? You get what I'm saying? Like this would, oh man, y'all don't get it. But if they wanted to and then Sony made it easier by saying, well, promote them. So it made it even easier. You feel me? The problem is a lot of the things that you're talking about don't really correlate or translate to what we got going on now.
Gear Solid, Final Fantasy.
Here we go. Third party. Here we go. Let's hear it again.
Before 360 PS3 generation, and I think we can all remember, the industry backed the winner. That's why Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy, Castlevania was on the PlayStation 1.
Because Castlevania was also on the 64. Castlevania was also on the Sega Saturn. What are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? Final Fantasy VII was originally planned as an N64 title. You can look this up, bro. You don't know what you're talking about, bro. And this is the problem with the gaming community. You're supposed to be 50 years old, and yet you don't even know how to educate Jackmove Johnny as to what he's talking about. Now I see why as to why people want me on your podcast, because they know that I can sit there and body you in an argument. It's like, bro, you're easy, bro. Like, you really want to have a discussion with me? You would get destroyed on your own podcast, G.
And I think we can all remember, the industry backed the winner. That's why Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy, Castlevania was on the PlayStation 1. Because the PlayStation 1 dominated, Nintendo fucked up with the N64. Yeah. That's how it was. Whoever was the dominant console, that's it. We're making like...
It's not that the N64 messed up. It's the fact that, I mean, I guess if you want to sit there and say they use cartridges, but a lot of the reasons as to why their games played so seamlessly was because of that. Nintendo had a vision. They wanted to have a vision of 3D games without necessarily the aspect of loading. So that's why they stuck with cartridges instead. That's why they either said get in or get out. They're essentially saying if you buy Nintendo, you're really buying it for our games. But let's be honest, PlayStation has always been a third-party device.
Multi-platform strategy wasn't a thing. It was, all right, who looks like is going to be the winner? Oh, shit. Super Nintendo looks like it's going to be the winner. Put all the games on Super Nintendo.
No, that has nothing to do with that because the Sega Genesis sold just as well. There was Contra Hard Corps and then Contra Alien Wars on Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. This had a lot to do with illegal contracts at the time, which Sega took Nintendo to court for. How do you not know this, bro? See, this is the type of stuff that just makes me go like I'm not frustrated. But it's just like, it's aggravating because when I'm sitting here listening to this dude, you figure that he'd be able to tell me more about what I know than me telling him.
All right, who's going to be the winner? Oh, wait a minute. PlayStation. Wait. What the fuck? And they got a disc? It's cheaper? Yeah, put everything on PlayStation.
Oh, that's another thing, too. It was easy to manufacture disc and print disc on PS1 in comparison to N64. Another good argument.
Oh, shit, PlayStation 2 smoking. Oh, yeah, put everything on PlayStation 2. Then PlayStation 3, 360 came, right? You got 360. It launched first. But I don't think people remember the first year PlayStation 360 launch wasn't that good. It just...
360's... What? What type of blasphemy? Did you just say the 360 wasn't good at launch? Hold on, let me hear this. Bro, he lost it, bro.
Then PlayStation 3, 360 came, right? You got 360. It launched first. But I don't think people remember the first year PlayStation 360 launch wasn't that good.
You was about to say PS3, which you should have said, but instead you just said 360. So I had to make sure, but go ahead.
It just wasn't. PlayStation 2 was still outselling it, right?
This is all you go about is sales, bro. What about the games, bro? Who cares? I'm sick and tired of this sales crap, bro. Because this is all you people keep doing, man. You want to sit there and say, bro, oh, man, hold on, bro. Hold on, bro, because I'm a real gamer. We don't play that type of garbage. You're going to sit there and say that the 360 didn't have a good launch when you had Condemned Criminal Origins, AMP 3, NBA 2K6 Next Gen, Madden 06, Gears of War, Shadowrun, Tenchu Z. You want to keep playing? You want to play this game? 99 Nights, Dead Rising. Matter of fact, a lot of these games came out for BioShock. What are we doing, bro? What are we doing, guys? What are we doing, man? Call of Duty 2. We're going to sit here and we're going to do this. Do y'all really want to go here with this, man? Like, as a gamers, I hate Xbox to the day you want. But let's keep things realistic here, people. Like, I just can't stand as to why you people will lie out your own teeth and tell people nothing but lies, bro. Man, y'all ain't no real gamers.
But when Sony announced the PlayStation 3 and it launched for $600, that was a huge shift. People were like, I'm not paying $600 for this. They just wasn't. They didn't give a fuck. They're like, we're not doing this. And then 360 launched Gears of War. So November 2006, you got a $400 console.
I also forgot, too, Perfect Dark Zero, Cameo. Bruh, it's over, bro. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, how 360 didn't have a good launch. But like I said, it's pretty obvious considering that the PlayStation 3 really had nothing in comparison to the 360.
Even a $300 one, right, the arcade edition, with Gears of War, or you could get a $600 PS3 for Resistance in Motorstorm. What you think is going to sell?
Not even just Motorstorm. Didn't they have Warhawk, NBA 07? So I know all the games. I think, what was it, Ridge Racer 7? Because I had one at launch. Resistance, Fallen Man. What was the other one? It was there was another one, too, that they had, bro. And I think I did say Folklore. Yeah, and I think Heavenly Sword came out, I think, the year after, 2007.
I'm not playing that shit. Everybody was buying 360s. And then the following year, Halo 3 or Uncharted 1. Now, Uncharted 1, I like it. It was good. But
and not even that. Let's not forget Crackdown either.
Come on now. You especially when multiplayer was the fever, you can't compete with Halo 3. And that multiplayer,
I don't know, man. Resistance was pretty good, man. I enjoyed the 40 multiplayer. It's just fact. This is the fact that y'all don't support your games.
It's no question, right? And the industry was like, wait a minute. People weren't really buying PS3s, and a lot of people buying 360s. So
that has a lot to do with third party.
Minimum,
oh yeah, I forgot. Last Odyssey. I mean, bro, it's done, bro. Just go home.
Assassin's Creed was announced. I don't think people remember, but Assassin's Creed was originally announced as an exclusive for PlayStation 3. Until Ubisoft was like, wait a fucking minute. Like, who's going to buy our game? No one's buying PlayStation 3s. So they made it multiplayer. And then the crazy part is it ended up running better. That was the better version. right? If you remember, listen, we got kind of jerked, right? Where's the agent?
Let's see, but there's one thing I will say that I loved about the PS3 was the fact that Sony was more experimental. Even though Sony had a lot of failures and flops with the console, Sony was still trying to bring out these games. You know what I'm saying? Now you look back at it. Now Sony's not even trying to do anything, bro. Sony not even trying to bring out their own first-party studios, which I think is actually quite sad because I think they do have great games. But unfortunately, with the way the market is, Sony's afraid to put them out there.
Again?
Yep.
We were promised the agent because Sony broke the deal because Rockstar, Take-Two said, hey, Sony, your console's not selling enough. It's going to fuck us over. We got to put this game on the Xbox. We got to make it multi-platform. Sony's like, cool, but you owe us an exclusive. Cool. Sony announced it as the agent. Where's the agent at?
Yep, you hear what you just said. So exclusivity, and I know what game he's talking about. So exclusivity was what killed that game because I was actually looking forward to that game. I actually was. So you just admitted that Sony ruined the game due to it being exclusivity. You see, we could have all been playing a good game. Sony would have had their hands on it. They could have been making money off Microsoft dummies. And nope, we had a good game being canceled all because of Sony's PlayStation pride.
There's no agent. Yep. I'll even take it as a multi-plat. Fuck it.
Well, there you go. So let's so now the real gamers is talking. So let's get Killzone, put it on Xbox and PC. Let's get Resistance, put it on Xbox and PC. Are you guys going to be willing to want to go through it with that? We know you're not. This is where the pony mannerisms come out. They're not going to want that. And like I've said before, if that's what Sony got to do to keep my favorite franchises alive, I am all for it. You guys are fighting on the wrong side of gaming. That's the problem with y'all. Y'all think everything's about exclusivity and all that. No, I want to see good games. Xbox is providing good games. Third party, I don't care. Y'all focusing on the wrong crap.
But, Rockstar's not on that vibe. But, to me, that's when the industry changed. Because that's when you saw Devil May Cry go to Xbox. Final Fantasy went to Xbox.
So you're admitting that the 360 was popular over the PlayStation due to third party. Thank you. Game still with another W.
Virtual fighters. With the online. The
third party has always been the most important aspect, bro. The Sega Saturn failed because of a lack of third party. The GameCube and the original Xbox had issues because of a lack of third party. Bro, like, what do you guys don't understand? Third party, like, it was at a point, I remember, even with the Dreamcast, they're like, even though Sega had their own 2K games, but it was so bad that even EA took a detriment on that system. EA's like, we're not putting games on y'all. You see what I'm saying? So third party has always dictated these platforms. I just think this is something that you guys don't understand.
I like multiplayer for Virtual Fighter. I remember that. I was like, yo, this shit is bad. Sony's fucking up big time. Virtual Fighters went there, right? So all these games that were once exclusives to PlayStation, by force, the industry changed.
Keyword, by force.
Like, you know what? We're not doing this follow the market leader no more. We're just going to put everything. And that's when the industry changed.
But that was actually good for PlayStation, though.
So it was good for PlayStation. No, it wasn't good for PlayStation because that's why PlayStation is having the problems they have now, right now, Jackmove Johnny. Instead of Sony, like Nintendo, focusing on their own IPs, putting the love and passion back into their own games, instead they rely solely on third party. And now that third parties can be essentially played on any device, Sony has no more weight to the argument. This is why y'all talk about Xbox games more than your own, because Sony hasn't supported their own games. When something didn't work out for them, they canceled it.
That was really because they had got on bullshit back then. But I didn't even buy. I remember when the PS3 was coming out. My teachers, they knew I was a big gamer. They were like,
I had one.
I'm like, hell no.
That motherfucker was hitting.
I was playing it on 360.
Yeah.
That shit was
I'm thankful for that in gaming too, because PlayStation saw that and they got on their shit after that. You know what I mean?
But unfortunately, y'all didn't get on yours and support them.
But now let's be honest. They created a lot of IPs, which no doubt there was a lot of games. But were they big hitters?
No.
There was only a few.
They weren't.
All those titles they made were big hitters.
They weren't. Like but at the end of the day, I enjoyed it because I'm a gamer and I didn't care about the sales of the console or the games. I enjoyed what we had, but I do get that sales do play a part in our gaming landscape, because if a game's not successful, then they're not going to come out with the sequels. This is why Days Gone is going through the thing that is going on now. Sony don't want to come out with a Days Gone 2 sequel because they would have to put more money into it. And if there's not enough fans to buy it, well, guess what? The company loses money. That's why a lot of the games that I once grew up with don't exist no more, or they don't want to bring them back out, because if they do and they fund it and it comes back out and they don't buy it, well, guess what? The company loses money.
Of Us, Uncharted, Infamous.
Infamous really don't exist. Until I see it on PS5, I don't consider it.
Demon Souls, I'll give them props for that partnership.
Yeah,
because that started the Demon Souls craze. Really, that Demon Souls craze started on PS3. Then everybody jumped.
Bro, you don't know nothing about gaming history, bro. I can't. Bro, you ever heard of a game called Kingsfield? Are you serious, bro? I can't, bro. Like, I'm about to end this video, bro.
Board, right? Created Dark Souls, right? But let's
what do you mean created Dark Souls? It was Kingsfield on the PlayStation 1.
Things like Mag, cool, we could talk about it.
Bro, I swear, bro, I feel like just shutting this video down, bro. Like, it's so bad, bro. I'm very shocked as to how you people can listen to these non-knowledgeable takes.
But that didn't really hit. SOCOM lost its flavor. Resistance, it was okay.
So you're just admitting that PlayStation games ain't on the level of Xbox titles.
Wasn't the big hitter. Ain't nobody really fucked with Warhawk or Starhawk.
I like those games, but yeah.
No, it was just it was a lot of titles, but there was not a lot of hitters. You know what I'm saying? But Sony did what they did, and be like.
And I honestly prefer that than what we're getting now with PS5, because this whole 75 million hardware sales ain't cutting it. Because out of all these hardware sales, we ain't getting no games.
Let's just throw anything.
We need Sony to go back to failing again, so Sony could go back to trying.
Well, I mean, you know, I got that when they did that All-Star Racing, those Mod Nation races and shit. You know, they
PlayStation All-Stars Royale, whatever that was pretty solid. I mean, they still did some good spin-offs, though. I wouldn't go as far to knock them like that. But hey, like I said, man, that's what happens when you're a PlayStation pony and you want to talk more about the sales of it than the games and the fun that these games gave to you. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, man. Like I said, 60 years old, no games podcast. This is why Microsoft's coming in, taking over the whole gaming industry, because look at it. PlayStation gamers don't even value their own games. I mean, you even got Jackmove Johnny talking about, oh yeah, PS2 was so good because of Devil May Cry, third party. Final Fantasy, third party. And then you guys wonder as to why these games are going elsewhere. Y'all a bunch of dummies, man. Maybe if they did the Nintendo and failed with a few of their projects, then maybe their games would eventually catch on. But no, Sony would rather send them to the graveyard like they playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And there you go. And we never. I mean, man, forget the graveyard, because in Yu-Gi-Oh! You can bring them back from the graveyard. They banished them. Okay? That's even worse than being sent to the graveyard. Your games have been banished from existence. Man, hey, well, at least you know, I mean, we had some potential aspects of resistance, but yet again, that game got sent to the banish yard. Take care.